Man, what a crazy few days. More hectic than ever. My kids started school on Monday. You guys know I have two daughters, 9 and 12. And they both entered new schools this year, so they were nervous as hell. And it reminds you as a parent, you think back to those days, right? Not knowing where you're going. The hallways, trying to find your classes, you're meeting new kids. You have a new locker, you got to remember the combination. Eating in a cafeteria with lots of people. I mean, almost everything is new. It's a, it's a cool experience. And the schools are great. We went a few days before. They just went over the guidelines, the rules, met the teachers, and it was awesome. Everyone wearing masks, desks 5 feet apart. When I dropped them off, when the schools had music playing outside, the teachers with pom-poms, it was like a celebration, and it was cool. It was an important message. That was my 9-year-old, because the world is different. I mean, you don't realize your kids are wearing masks. And one of my friends told me his daughter is 5, going to like a preschool thing or whatever it was. And I think it's 5 or whatever it is. But that's her first memory. I mean, at least our kids knew they were going to school before this happened. But it's her first memory. Like, is this supposed to be like that? I mean, you don't even know the effect that's going to have later on, which is crazy. But I love the celebration part and happiness. And it was cool. I mean, just made the kids feel really comfortable. And dropping them off, you just saw how much they really need school. They need to be around other kids. I mean, it's such a huge part of growing up, and I understand why the schools were closed. I get it. As you know, as the data came out, I've been covering this subject thoroughly, talking to doctors, interviewing people on lockdown since January. When you look at statistics, I've been a huge fan saying that you got to let the kids go back to school. I mean, it really is a joke. Especially if you look at the past 2 months, right? That's what I was really seeing me on Twitter saying, come on, all this garbage with people closing their schools, it's terrible. It's terrible. Especially when it show that most kids who catch COVID, the symptoms are not even as bad as the flu. They're less than the flu. And the death rate is minimal. So for kids under 25, you look at the stats from today, guys, from today. You're looking at the stats. If you're under 25 years old, the rate of you dying, if you're infected, that infection rate is 0.2% if you're under 25 years old. If you are under 14 years old, it's 0.03%. The chances of catching COVID as a kid and dying, 0.03%. And schools are closed everywhere, almost everywhere, still. And so if you want to put all this in perspective, I know, depending on which channel you watch, I know Biden came out and said, hey, if the science says it, we're going to close a whole entire economy. And so, again, there's a big race out there, and it makes sense to close schools. It makes sense for the comment to do whatever side you're on. Again, I don't care. You have the Republican National Convention going on. They're saying, everything, how great Trump is. And then we saw Democrats, how great Biden is, all this, whatever it is. But do your own homework, because this is about you. It's about your kids. When you do the research and put in perspective, okay, look at the CDC. That's a site pretty much everyone trusts. We're supposed to trust on both sides. As of today, right now, and not even today, the last 2 months, 92% of the deaths from COVID, again, from today's stats on the CDC, come from people who are 55 and older, 92%. So open up the damn schools already. As far as the LA Teachers Union, who said they're not going to go back to work until we see defunding of the local police departments, I'll fucking fire all of them. Hey, using our kids as a political weapon, especially teachers. I mean, these are teachers. They need to be fired. There are unions, whatever. Have the government provide funding for teachers who they want to teach kids. That's your job, to teach kids. You're talking about defunding the police? Are you kidding me? It's a sick joke. Put politics aside just for a little while. Come on, this is our kids. They're home for 6 months. It doesn't mean every parent should send their kids back to school. And I'm coming up to a big point here. Doesn't mean that. It means that the parents should have the choice, not the politicians. And for example, my youngest has Crohn's. Yes, is diagnosed with Crohn's again. A couple of weeks ago, it was ulcerative colitis. They flip back and forth. But we got the test back from her latest biopsy, and it's Crohn's. So she's taking Humira now. That's why we had to get more tests, because the other medicine wasn't working as well. So she takes a very, very low doses. And Humira, It's a great drug. Most people use it. It's fantastic. We've done a ton of research on it. But when you have Crohn's, you're either, flared up and it hurts, or you're in remission. And that remission is usually most of the time. And my daughter, she has small flare-ups. So she's in pain like every other day. And we knew that the medicine wasn't working, so we had to upgrade to Humira. So Humira lowers your immune system. So it increases the chance of her catching COVID. And again, if she catches it based on its statistics, likely going to be mild. We could take her off Humira. We can take her off. So she's only getting a very, very small dose right now. But we opted to send her to school, my wife and I. We made that choice. Am I nervous? Yeah, of course I'm a little nervous. Of course I am. But at least I made the choice. And people who are nervous, if the kids are going back and you're talking to your friends and you're seeing, hey, it's been going on for 4 weeks and everything seems pretty cool, then you're going to have more confidence. But that's how you build up the confidence. But let that be up to parents. It's their choice. It's their children, not politicians. I mean, it's crazy. And we know that there's some politicians, we know based on whatever side you're on, it's a benefit for keeping schools closed, keeping stores closed, keeping businesses closed, which is insane because CDC just came out and said we no longer need 2-week quarantines for anyone traveling to different states. Yet, look at the East Coast, my hometown, New York. You look at New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, still keeping so many businesses closed, and they have yet to lift those restrictions. Because anyone entering New York or those states, and I think they have a list of them. It's obviously Florida, it's Texas, Arizona. They have North Carolina, South Carolina on the list, Utah, Alabama. It's like 10 of them. But anyone entering, right? They have checkpoints still. Even though the CDC said we don't need them, they said that based on it, we don't need that anymore. But they're still deciding it. So what happened to following the science? I mean, isn't everybody on both sides, we're going to follow the science. We're going to follow the science. That's why we really closed everything, because the scientists were so wrong at the beginning, which is fine. Everybody was wrong at the beginning. We didn't know how crazy this was. But now we know. We know the risks. We know the risks. We know the people who are at risk. And we know the people who are not at risk. But I guess following the science doesn't really matter. But the reason why this week has been so hectic for me is because of my beautiful wife, who timed this perfectly on Tuesday morning. Timed it perfectly. So we like animals. Kind of understatement there. We have a snake, we have a big lizard, we have a gecko, 2 dogs, cat, just a bunch of animals. Yeah, we like animals around our house. Anyway, my cat, we got him. His name is Phil. That was a name on there, not my name. I didn't name my cat Phil. Anyway, it's funny because when my mom came over before she got sick, she used to watch him, and she thought his name was Fred. He's an outdoor cat. She used to yell, "Fred, where are you?" I was like, his name's Phil, Mom. Come on. Yelling Fred. Some guy, Fred's probably just going to come. Hopefully it's an older guy. Maybe she could hook up, whatever it is. But yelling Fred, people thought she was crazy. But yes, my cat's name is Phil. He loves to go outside and also loves to get beat up by other cats. I don't know what. And unfortunately, doesn't have claws. We adopted him. He doesn't have claws, the front paws. So we worry about that. But loves to fight. Even starts with my dogs all the time. Nice cat, just likes to fight. And sometimes when he fights with cats, outdoor cats, and there's not a lot of them. There's a couple across the street. You could hear it from like 3-4 blocks away. So my wife heard it at 5 a.m, and we have a 2-story house, and she comes running down the stairs, and she totally twists her ankle, rolls it over really, really bad. She was yelling. She was in pain. This is 5 a.m, and as I'm walking down the stairs, my first reaction is like, "Oh my God, babes, are you okay? Is everything okay?" And 5% of me was like, "Really? Did you just twist your ankle the second day the kids started school after they were home for 6 months?" Only 5% of me was thinking that. I promise only 5%, but I was really nervous because she did get hurt. It was pretty bad. And this was Tuesday, and they just started school on Monday. So I wake up at 5. She could barely walk, put her on a couch, ice on her ankle, wrapped it, elevated. I know everything about ankles because I played basketball for 30 years, and believe me, I know if you could have ligament damage, I can get you on the court for the next 24 hours. I've done it before. I know how to tape up. I've taken classes on it as well. But I was able to tape it up, and basically now everything falls on my shoulders. So I have to take the kids to school. And they go to 2 different schools, and they start an hour apart. So I wake up, feed them, get them dressed. It's Tuesday. And it really went well. It really went well. I think my wife got a little pissed at that because in the mornings, my kids love to fight. They just bicker. They love each other to death, but they bicker, bicker, bicker all the time. And my wife is yelling and they're yelling. And, then it ends up me yelling, say, everybody, could you just shut the, I don't curse. Just shut up. Everybody calm down. But it's a normal occurrence for anyone who has kids. They have to wake up at the same time. It's pretty crazy. It's hectic. But they got ready very quickly. Lunch is packed, got their head. Everything was perfect. Because daddy's taking them to school. They were happy, which is really cool. But then I had to pick both of them up on Tuesday at 2 different times. In the middle of this, I'm taking my interview for this podcast, which you're going to hear in a little while. Fantastic interview coming up. And also taping my CVO newsletter, which I do in video format, which all of my subscribers should be ecstatic, especially those who just signed up. Because the stock we pitched in that letter is up about 90% in a month. Fantastic news. I'll talk about that later in my educational segment. But just running back and forth. And then each of my daughters, when I pick them up one at a time, I'm starving. When you have kids at that age, man, they're hungry all the time. They're just hungry all the time. They eat whenever. It's so hard. There's no way you can have a schedule. Okay, you eat breakfast. No, they're hungry. Dad, we're hungry. Hungry. All right, great. Pick up my youngest, go get her food, come back home, then go to pick up my older one. She's like, you know what? I'm hungry. My wife calls, you know what? I'm hungry too. Got to pick up food. All of this in the middle of taping all this stuff. And, it's been really, really crazy. And it's funny because, when I look at my wife, when we fight all the time, right? We fight about so many, little things like all couples fight and stuff like that. But when we fight, she always says, yeah, what do you think? I'm an idiot? You must think I'm an idiot. Sometimes you think I'm an idiot, don't you? She always says that. And I tell her, I said, you know what? We live in Florida. You can actually have 25 boyfriends based on the state law. I'm still going to have to pay you half. So you're actually one of the smartest people I ever met if we get divorced. And of course, she gets upset. But we have a little back and forth and stuff like that. But we bicker just like most married people bicker. I mean, it's just, it's a form of communication, which is cool. But now that she twisted her ankle, one day after the school reopened, I'm like, yeah, she didn't twist it in March, April, May, June, July, most of August when the kids were home. But one day after school's open. And it was so hectic, taking care of the kids and working that I posted on Twitter at 3:45. And I said, listen, guys, you got to pay close attention to Best Buy. You guys know I've been covering Best Buy for a long time. Recommended a long time ago on a podcast, over 2 years ago. And you should be doing great. But I said, it's one of the best conference calls to listen to. They're reporting after the close. It's going to give you a good indication of dozens of segments within technology. Be sure, I posted this on my Twitter account. I'm Frank Curzio. Best Buy reported in the AM. I didn't even know that. That's how hectic it was. So, I got a couple of messages, and I left it up there because I always own my own mistakes. I made fun of them and said, yep, I'm listening to that call right now. I just saw they reported. But it was tough. It was really tough. And in all seriousness, my wife is doing better. Her ankle's still pretty bad, but I took her to get an x-ray yesterday, and there was no fractures, which was good. And if I had to guess, she's probably going to be out of commission for at least a week or two, but still having trouble working. And she is doing a lot better. But more to the point here, I got a firsthand look of how hard she works. And sometimes you take that for granted. I mean, taking care of the kids all day, just take them to school back and forth. And even when they get home, it's crazy because the kids just, won't get unleashed because they behaved all day. You're doing the homework, arranging play dates, volunteering at school. I mean, she also does our finances, our personal finances, which is really, really cool. She's amazing. Being that, running the company, she just does so much. But you really don't appreciate that work. And sometimes you only realize that when you're forced to be in someone else's shoes. And man, holy cow. So this week's going to be a little crazy. It's nuts, especially since our CEO token is about to launch in just a few weeks, which is really exciting. So we're going to become the first security token, and it's nicknamed CEO, Curzio Equity Owners, in the world to go free trading on a global exchange that's available to mom and pop investors or retail investors. So that's coming up pretty soon. And again, I just want to thank my wife for everything that she does. And yeah, she is getting better. And man, that timing though was really good for her. You got to admit, that timing was very, very good for her. But everything's going to be fine. No break there. And hopefully she'll be up and at it. For my sake, for her sake, for everyone's sake, within 7 or 14 days.